Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our 13th episode. This is our special Bar Mitzvah edition. Oh, yes. And tonight we will be hearing from our very own Dr. Ellie Cannon, who's no stranger to the screen. We will meet Toni Fine, the homemade masks guru, and we will hear a beautiful number from the Shabbaton Choir.
Yes, so Ragutag, they're going to start making it mandatory to wear masks in the grocery stores. We thought it was just in shul that was going to be difficult to wear the mask in the shul, but now it is becoming law on the 24th of July. How do you think the stores are going to take it? You think they're going to give out free masks, or we're going to have to bring our own?
You probably have to bring your own. It's not the store's responsibility, I guess. I mean, some of the shops might want to for their own customer service, perhaps.
For sure. If they want us to come, and that's the law, they would probably have to provide it, right? I would imagine.
Well, I think it's the customer's responsibility, because they said if you don't wear it, they could fine you 100 quid.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, well, that's what I said on the news anyway.
Oh, wow. Okay, I didn't hear that part. Okay.
Yeah. It's already been the law in Scotland since the lockdown was eased about a month ago. In fact, my brother, his in-laws have got a place in Scotland, and they said, this is a few weeks ago, they said they're not going there this year because you've got to wear masks in the stores there. I don't want to wear masks in the stores, so we're not going to Scotland. They're like, well, now you've got to wear it in England as well. So I think they are going to Scotland in the end,
Right. I think, it's interesting. People think, I've been wearing masks, when we go into the stores even before law, and you see the looks that you get, like, why are you wearing it? You're trying to protect yourself, and listen, it's really about protecting the other people from.
Absolutely. Well, it does both. Wearing a mask protects you and it protects others. And there are more others than you. So actually, it's a mitzvah to do it because you're protecting others, and it is uncomfortable. I'm not going to deny it. I wear it in shul. It's not pleasant. I can't breathe, but you do it. And
right.
That's what we're going to do. In fact, in this week's Sedra, Parashas Devarim, it's talking the laws to a judge. It says, "Lo guru mitpnei ish." Don't be afraid of anyone. And sometimes if you think you're self-conscious, wearing this, and does it match my tie and stuff like that, it doesn't matter. Lo guru mitpnei ish. Don't be afraid of anyone. Just do the right thing. Do the right thing. And in fact, when you do the right thing, it usually does inspire others to do the right thing as well. And we're protecting people. We're definitely the right.
I think that's at the end of the day, it's not only about doing the right thing, it's about doing the right thing for others. It's not even about oneself. And as we will now hear from Dr. Ellie, who has been sort of the campaigner for masks, we are very honored to have her here on North State TV talking to Rabbi Friedman. So over to you.
Welcome, Dr. Ellie, to Narasli TV. What an honor. Obviously, Dr. Ellie Cannon, you are a dear member of Hamster Gardens Synagogue for many years, but I think this might be the first time we have on Narasli TV a real TV celebrity. So thank you for honoring us with your presence today. And you're here today. Today's segment is about face masks. And this has certainly been a campaign of yours that's been close to your heart for a long time now. I think you're really one of the early adopters of the importance of face masks long before the government realized that this was necessary. So tell us a little bit about when you became aware of how important it is and how you really probably took it to a public position.
Okay, so I mean, essentially, definitely in March and April, I was very against people wearing masks. We were all very concerned about the amount of PPE in the country, so I was quite upset to see people around in surgical face masks because I knew they needed to be somewhere else. And I also knew from my experience of wearing PPE at work that they have to be worn in a certain way and taken off in a certain way. And actually, if you're not doing that, you can expose yourself to more risks. But as time went on, and certainly by sort of early to mid-April, more and more data was coming out, actually from a data scientist in the States, not actually a medic and not actually somebody who works in any sort of healthcare or virology, pure data science, that looked at the countries that had started to adopt mask wearing. So obviously it's always been quite a big thing in Asia, in the Far East. It's quite sort of a cultural norm there. But actually at the beginning of March, lots of countries started compulsory mask wearing. So quite a lot of European countries, like the Czech Republic and Croatia, Israel as well, lots of places instigated mask wearing very early, and a lot of data came out of that very quickly. And it soon became very clear from this data that started to be published early to mid-April that actually mask wearing was associated with countries where there were lower rates of coronavirus and lower rises in coronavirus. So even if the numbers were going up, they weren't going up in this horrible way that we saw day after day after day. And that comes from the fact that the masks don't protect you, the wearer, they protect the people around you. So that's sort of really when I got hold of it, and my editor at the Mail on Sunday actually wanted me to write about masks, wanted me to talk to people about it. I was a bit nervous because I knew I was going against the sort of government party line, which was no, the masks are for PPE. So that's when I really sort of got into this idea of either making your own face mask or having cloth face masks, which really are to protect the people around you and not you as the wearer.
So what's the difference between, I mean, early in the piece when you say PP face masks were limited, it seems like we have a few more available now, versus the cloth masks. Are they just as good in terms of not transmitting the disease?
So that's a really good question. So the difference is, and people say, well, obviously if a mask allows it to go one way, of course it allows it to go the other way. So it all boils down to these horrible virus droplets that everybody talks about, that we cough out and we sneeze out and we breathe out. So when these virus droplets leave our body, either because we're ill or because we've got the virus and we don't know about it, those droplets coming out in our breath or when we're singing or whatever, they're at their largest at that point. So if you're wearing something to stop those droplets coming out, they don't have to be highly filtered or surgical or anything. They can be basically as basic as a cotton face mask. They don't have to have a very tight mesh because the droplets at that point are big. And then by the time they've gone and traveled and landed 1 meter away or 2 meters away, they're much, much smaller. So that's why if you're wearing a mask to protect yourself, it has to be a surgical type face mask where the mesh is much, much thinner and will trap really tiny particles. So that's the sort of difference between wearing something cotton, which obviously is breathable, but it does trap those big virus droplets as they come out.
So are there any materials that are just not good enough, like linen, or does everything work?
Everything really works. I mean, if we're talking about protecting other people around us, which the real word for is source control, really anything in front of your face is absolutely fine, as long as it's over your mouth and your nose, and as long as it's sort of nice and tight over your nose here and sort of covered, then it's just going to trap it. So it's like trapping a sneeze in a tissue or in a hanky, or like we were told at the beginning to cough into your elbow. It's just stopping any of those respiratory droplets coming out.
Right. There's nothing to, I mean, sometimes you see people who only have their mouths covered and not their noses. That's not very effective, right?
It's not, but I'm really keen that we don't overcomplicate things. So if half of us were wearing masks really well, then that would be great. And then if 3/4 of us were wearing them really well, that would be even better. But if some people are doing it a bit wrong, then it doesn't really matter. Like, as long as most of us are doing it right, you have to have your mouth and your nose covered. It helps if it's not damp. So I find when you're wearing a mask for a while, I mean, let's not lie, it's not comfortable to wear a mask for a long time. It does get hot and it also gets a bit damp. So you can put in between the layers, you can put in kitchen roll or something just to keep it dry. And then you really need a few, because if you're commuting, you need one for the way to work, you need one for the way home. So it sort of helps just to make it a normal part of your life, really.
Right. So where should be, you talk about commuting, where should we be wearing masks? Indoors, outdoors, work, commute, synagogue. What's the difference between each of those situations, and what should the average person be doing?
So everything is about levels of risk. So we're probably all fed up with the term risk because of coronavirus, but everything is about levels of risk, isn't it? So if you are working, obviously, or going into hospital, for example, you have to wear a mask. There's a lot of people around. There's a chance some of them have coronavirus. Put a mask on. Public transport, you have to wear a mask. Now that makes sense because it's hard to socially distance. In my work, even when we're not seeing patients, we wear face coverings to protect each other. In shul, obviously, you've got a lot of people in there. They're not singing, I know that, but there's a lot of people there, so it makes sense to wear masks. You've also got possibly more vulnerable people in shul, because maybe you've got a slightly older population going into shul. So it's all about weighing up those things. I think where you don't have to wear a mask, obviously, is in your own home. Is it with people who you are in a bubble with? When you're outside, we seem to be quite lucky in the sense of the virus doesn't seem to transmit that much outside. So it probably isn't necessary to be wearing a mask outside if you've got space between you and other people. So it's difficult in different situations to weigh up exactly what the risks are. But if you can't socially distance, or if there are simply a lot of people, so a lot higher chances of picking up the virus, then it makes sense to put a mask on.
Right, and I understand we have a Mazel Tov, please God, this Wednesday. Poor Jude missed out on his bar mitzvah Shabbos due to the lockdown. We had a lovely Zoom bar mitzvah, and I understand we even had some laning that filled the streets from the Cannon home. But in terms of the Aliyah in Shul, that's going to happen this Rosh Chodesh, and we're going to hear Jude Lane, and it's going to be some laning and bar mitzvah with mask wearing, and that's not easy for anybody. How is Jude up for it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this household, everybody has like a choice of 4 different masks they can put on each day. So it's very normal in this household to be wearing a mask when you're going out, when you're in the shops. We've got quite back into normal life. So we're on public transport, we're in the shops, we've been out to eat. So I think he'll be fine to wear a mask, and I don't think he'll be worried about it.
Okay, excellent. Well, looking forward to Wednesday. So let's shift gears for a moment. We're now desperately seeking a vaccine, and you, Dr. Ellie, have been brave enough to step up to be part of a clinical trial for vaccination. Can you tell us a little about that experience and why you chose to be part of that experience?
Yeah, so I was vaccinated with a vaccination on the Oxford vaccine trial 5 weeks ago. Lots of doctors and healthcare workers, as well as the general public, actually, were sent an email inviting them to take part in the trial. They particularly want healthcare workers because we're more likely to come into contact with the virus. So I felt very strongly that it was something I wanted to do. I have felt like everybody else, very angry and very upset during lockdown, traumatized by certain things, and very frustrated for my family, frustrated for me. Life is on hold. And rather than shouting at the TV or shouting on social media, both of which are things I do a lot, I thought I would put my anger to good use and get on the train and go to UCH and sign up for the vaccination trial. And I'd encourage other people to do the same.
Well, Yashikov, it's really amazing of you. Now, it seems, though, that rumors are, I mean, I read it in various media sources. New Statesman had a big piece on it this week, that the problem that we're facing is that since COVID has dropped due to lockdown, it's hard to test whether the vaccine is working or not, and that now they're talking of actually giving, as part of the trial, injecting people with COVID. Is that something that you've considered?
No, so the honest answer to that is no, that's not something I would consider. So I think what they're doing with the Oxford vaccine trial, which is the one I'm on, is they've taken, so the trial has different centres. So although it comes from Oxford, I've actually joined the trial at UCH, and there's a few London hospitals that are doing it also around the country. And now what they've done is they've opened up trial centres in South America, and they've taken the trial to Brazil, where there's very high rates, which obviously seems much more sensible and ethical to give the vaccination to people who are going to come into contact with the virus naturally. I mean, that's why they wanted healthcare workers, because we would be naturally subjected to it. I think that's an extra step. You see, to me, it didn't feel like a big deal to get involved in the vaccination trial. I've had a lot of vaccinations in my life because of work and because of travel, and I've never really, thankfully, had any reaction to them. And I'm a big believer in vaccination for children, particularly for things like meningitis and HPV. So I've always been a big supporter of vaccinations. So for me to get involved in trialing a vaccination that effectively is just a mimic of the flu vaccine, really, but for coronavirus, didn't really seem to me like a big leap of faith. But I think that actually agreeing to have, I don't know, actually agreeing to sort of get coronavirus, I don't know how they would do that when, I mean, I have had friends who were so seriously ill, and obviously have got patients who sadly have died, and obviously known people who have been really ill. That would seem like sort of really too much, certainly for me. Listen, there are people every day in this country who are amazing, who undertake medical trials and are given very experimental medications and go through all sorts of scientific testing. And I you know, take my hat off to them. But that would have been a step too far for me, I think.
Right. Well, but thank you. You know, it's we still don't know what's going to be, and the virus is certainly still out there. But you know, it's been 2 weeks now that we have been out of lockdown, and it seems that things are under control. What do you think? There's going to be a second wave and a second lockdown, or are we going in the right direction?
So I don't believe there will be a second wave. I certainly don't believe there will be a second wave that looks anything like March and April. And the reason I think that is because I think there are enough, so there are lots and lots and lots of factors, all of which are good enough when they're put together that they will prevent a second wave. So the government always talks about world-beating apps and gold standard tests and everything, all very hyperbole and all of that. We don't need to listen to any of that. Everything is sort of good enough. So if mask wearing is good enough, and then you combine that with a medication, which we've got now, which is good enough, and if people's hand washing is good enough, the testing system is definitely good, probably better than good. The testing system, the test and trace system is good enough. And all of those sort of good enough things, I think will be enough to prevent a big second wave. I think we will see things like what we've seen in Leicester. We've already seen that this week in Barnet. So this week in Barnet, we've had double the number of cases from last week, which are clusters in Golders Green. So you will see clusters in places, but the beauty now is that we are testing so much that we can see these local outbreaks. You know, we can take them right down to the granular detail, the households, where they're coming from, and that means that you can squash them down very quickly. And if you look back to March, when this all started in the UK, that is so far away from that. It was so different. We didn't have any testing capacity. We didn't know anything about it. So I believe there isn't going to be one magic bullet that's going to prevent the second wave. It's going to be lots of these little good enough things that club together that hopefully prevent any second wave.
Right. So I know that you're a medical doctor. I don't know if you dabble at all in counseling issues around Shalom Bayit, peace at home, but we have a bit of a dispute going on at number 8 right now. A bit of a leave and remain debate. Summer being around the corner. Do we head off to the continent? Do we not? I'm not going to tell you who says what, but we have different opinions as to whether it's a good idea or not. What would you advise? Should Brits be heading off to the continent right now, or should we be staying put?
Well, I mean, obviously what I'm going to say is that is all to do with your own personal risks and how confident you feel with the different measures you would have to take. So if you were going to drive to France in your car and drive through the Eurotunnel and then arrive at an Airbnb and not see anybody else, obviously that's a very different category of risk to getting on a plane with 100+ people for 3 hours, staying in a hotel. So there's sort of different levels of risk, but then it depends where you're going to go and stay. If you're going to go and stay somewhere which has had very low COVID and everybody wears a mask. So it's all about sort of weighing up those type of things. The Cannon household are hoping to fly on holiday in 3 weeks' time. So, and then we will go if we are allowed to go. So I don't know if that helps your dispute. A lot of people are going away in England, in the UK, which seems like a great idea. Boost the UK economy, stay local, stay safe. Seems like a really good idea. So we're all doing what's important to us, and also weighing up as well how much we all need a psychological break. We've all been in this situation really since March the 1st, give or take. So it's a very, very long time. So going on holiday might be what everybody needs to counteract other health risks. So I'll leave that one to you guys, I think.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Ellie. You've really shared so much important information with us today. It's such an honor to have you on RSLE TV. It's an honor to call you friends and part of the RSLE family. Mazel tov for Wednesday, and may we only share simchas. Thank you for everything you've done for really all the entire country in these many months. You've really been a beacon of hope and inspiration to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Ellie Cannon, for joining us. That was quite informative, such interesting facts and good points to know about making what to do and making the right decision when we go outside. And mazel tov to the upcoming bar mitzvah.
Yeah, mazel tov. We're looking forward to hearing Jude Lane on Wednesday. Wednesday's Rosh Chodesh Av, of course. So Jude, who was supposed to do the laning Rosh Chodesh Nissan 4 months ago, he's now got the opportunity to catch up. In fact, I had the pleasure of learning with Jude as he prepared for his bar mitzvah. He lanes beautifully. So I'm looking forward to hearing that. He's a lovely boy. And mazel tov to all the family.
And now we have the pleasure to meet another member of ours, Toni Fine, who has been very busy during lockdown. Let's hear what she's been up to. So welcome, Toni Fine, to RSLE TV. Thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
So Toni, tell us a little about yourself. How long have you been in the suburb? Where are you from?
I am English. I was born in Leeds, but my parents moved to California way back when you could smell the oranges in the air and there was no smog, and Rodeo Drive was like East Finchley High Road. It wasn't the nonsense it is now. So I grew up there and I came back and just for a visit, and I met my husband, Edwin Fine, whose family has long been associated with RSLE. Maybe many of your people will have known his aunt and uncle, Shirley and Alfred Kleiman, who were very involved with the shul. And and so we live in the suburb, we always have, and I love it.
That's amazing. So where are you? What do you have, a whole factory behind you? What's going on?
I am in our spare room, which is Grandma's playroom. But now that my grandkids are a bit older, it's now Grandma's craft room. And I've always dabbled in crafts, and I just keep all my supplies in here. And I'm very lucky to have a big space for it. And I know it's a mess, forgive it, but it produces interesting things.
It actually looks very well organized. You can see all
Yeah.
the compartments, and I'm sure your grandkids, if they need anything, they always know where to go to.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. So Toni, I hear you've been very busy over lockdown. What have you been busy with?
I've been making masks. They look like this.
Wow. Wow.
They're good. They have evolved over the time. They're reversible. They have a pocket for a filter. They're adjustable around the ears, but they weren't always so. I started out making, it was when lockdown was really seriously in earnest and we were all afraid to go out. And it was very much just to protect people who had to go to work. So in fact, I started out giving to the North London Hospice, because obviously their carers and their people there needed medical quality, but they didn't have cars, so they had to take public transport. So I made a load of masks for them. And then word got around and I started making for actually a girl called Abigail Simon, a really marvelous girl who lives in North London, who's been busy with many things. And she got involved with Compassion London, which feeds homeless and anybody who needs an NHS worker. So then I started supplying to them, and they told other people, and then I started doing it for friends and for family, and it just went on from there.
Wow. It looks like it takes a long time to make. I mean, first of all, how many did you make? Have you been counting?
I started, and I thought I was really good. I'd made 100. I counted up recently. I've made, I think, 870 by now.
Wow.
Over the 3 months. And they're very time consuming, but they're well made. I didn't want to give them out to people that they wouldn't hold up for. But it starts out with choosing the fabric. So taking the one I showed you, and it's cut into a mask shape.
They're great. They're so colorful. I love the colors.
I know. These are fun. They're camouflage ones. Awesome. And so then they are sewn together like that. So you have a front, but then you need a back, and then you need the filter pocket. And the pocket is a pain in the neck because it's that size, but you have to hem the edges first. And then you have to make a sandwich. I have one here somewhere, which is all the 3 layers, the outside, the inside, and the pocket. And they have to be sewn all the way around and then turned inside out, and then they have to be ironed. And one of the other challenges actually was with these beads. So the elastic cord comes in different sizes, and that was a real experiment to find ones that are comfy around the ear, because people have to wear them all day. They're uncomfortable. So I could find the thin elastic, but I couldn't find the beads that the elastic would go through. So in the end, from Grandma's craft room came Fimo clay, and I managed to make my own beads, which was rather fun.
Look at all that handmade work.
Yeah.
Like, how long does one mask take you?
Well, Batya, I couldn't tell you because I now have learned to do them in a batch. So, for example, look at this pile of ones that are just all cut out. And then I'll have to put them together. But one of the things for me is I have to light them. So, for example, that's the outside. And I really do take time to make sure that the inside is interesting and different, because there's a nose wire. If you don't put a filter in, you can wear them reversibly. So they go both ways. So for example, this one, which is fun, has a completely different inside. The same with this one, which is more suitable for our gentlemen.
Right. That's
So
really
it's good. I mean, I've met some really lovely people along the way. One of the things that pleased me the most was when I first started, I had an excess, I had surplus, so I put a notice on Facebook for the East Finchley community. And I had a note from a girl who said that she was living out in Norfolk, and her parents live opposite the Five Bells pub, which is just off East End Road, near where we all live. And the parents were both in terrible isolation and vulnerable, and nobody was going round. And could I just drop a couple round? And I thought, I don't know if she's real or not, but I did it because what's to lose? And I had just the loveliest note from her that I didn't go in, obviously. I knocked on the window, but I was able to see her parents, and then I could come home and write to them and say I'd seen them and that they were alive and well. And
wow.
that's the kind of thing that's been good. I've enjoyed that very much.
Unbelievable. Well, Yashikov to you. That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
All the little things that, I mean, we heard,
Yeah.
we know there's a lot of good that came out of, that have continued to come out of the lockdown. And these are so many different stories like this. So it's really amazing.
I think so. And I mean, I've run across just wonderful people, particularly this Dutchman behind this Compassion London, and also a Jewish Labour councillor called Sarah Conway, who's been doing huge amounts of work in North London at the Burt Oak Women's Refuge. And people are basically very nice, and it's nice in these times when it comes out and you see it.
Right, as well as the North London Food Bank, right? You had given them.
Yes, that's one of our wonderful members, Naomi
Russell. That's right.
Who started that, and they're just going from strength to strength.
Yeah.
And actually, my daughter-in-law's been helping her out, so that's nice as well.
So just going back to the mask, you said the filters, which is for those of us who don't know, what's the filter for? Do you have to, you buy it separately? Like, what is it exactly?
The Times this week had an article talking about masks, and they were saying that the disposable paper ones really are practically worse than nothing, that they just get wet and they're really not good. And that ideally a mask should be 3 layers. It should be pure cotton, which mine are, and it should have a pocket for a filter, but that's mainly if it's only 3 layers. I don't know if you'll know from America, but I don't know if people know here, these shop towels. Do you know Scott's shop towels?
That good old Bounty. Yeah, they call them plenty here.
It's a denser paper towel, but if you Google it, you'll see that in America, scientists did some studies, and they said that with just a square of that cut and put into the pocket, that they are as effective as N95 masks, which is quite something.
Interesting.
However, truthfully, I've never used a filter, and I think because they're 3-layer, I'm not sure you need to. And if you're in a really strict medical environment, I should have said at the beginning, I don't make any claims for these, you know.
Right.
I have no idea whether they're proven or not. I personally believe that they're good.
Right.
And I do wear them whenever I go into a shop.
Well, we know that it's going to be law by July 24th, I think it is, right?
26th.
26th, right.
Whenever it is.
That they're going to start, and, you know, that everyone's going to have to start wearing masks. So I think it's amazing that you were already ahead of the curve.
Yeah, it's funny. I think I believe in them. I think they're good. I know they protect others from us, but I have a feeling that if they're good quality, I can't help but feel they protect us as well.
Right. Absolutely. And you don't do this for a profit, I know, right?
No.
Right. It's amazing.
I continue to give so many away. I have 2 lovely contacts. One is a nurse at the Royal Free, and the other is a theatre sister at the Whittington. And I'm afraid I don't want to go up to the hospitals myself, but I drop them over to them, and then they distribute, again, mainly for people who are traveling to and from work on the bus.
Right, amazing. So if somebody wants to, you know, order these specialty masks, how can someone buy them?
The best is if people email me. It's tonifine@mac.com. And that way, then I can just send them photos of what fabric I have, because it's always changing. It's very hard to get fabric now, and elastic. Oh, and I should say they have these are aluminium nose wires, which are inside them so that you can mold them around the nose. But even those are difficult to get. I think people are realizing. I mean, for a while, I thought I was going to stop making them because when I did them, there was a need for them because nobody else was making them and there was a shortage. Now, my Facebook, everything is bombarded with masks. And I think, well, I don't want to compete with them. I don't want to be in business. I never intended to. But then when I've seen ones that other people have, they're not comfortable. They're not nicely made. So I will continue to do them for people and causes I believe in.
Well, Yasha Koch, Toni. Thank you so much for all the wonderful work you're doing, and we really appreciate it. I know I have one of your masks along with the rabbi, and they're definitely comfortable. I can vouch for them.
Good.
And you know, being that they're material as opposed to those disposable ones, you can definitely breathe more through them. So thank you very much for joining us, and continue on with great goodness. May you continue to have health with you and Edwin, and
thank you so much.
Share good news, always good news.
All right. And you stay well. Care. Thank you.
Thank you, Toni. That is amazing. It's unbelievable. Thank you so much for sharing what you've done. It's so inspirational for us here and for everyone to hear the amount of chesed that has been going on during the lockdown. It's really tremendous, very inspirational. Kol hakavod to you. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. And before we give you our last little feature, we just want to tell you what's coming up this week. We have tomorrow night, we're talking about the Red Sea Spies, the hot film on Netflix, and we're speaking with the author Rafi Berg and the ex-Mossad agent Danny, and an Ethiopian rabbi who was one of the escapees, one of the refugees. So it should be quite a fascinating talk. That's tomorrow night, Tuesday at 8 o'clock here on Facebook Live. And then on Thursday, we speak to Yehonatan Endursky again from Shtisel as he's filming the third season. He is going to give us a little talk and we're so honored to have Gary Crystal, our own local filmmaker, to a Q&A with him and have a discussion all about the upcoming third season. Should be quite interesting.
Yes, it should. So just before we say goodbye to you, we're going to leave you with a beautiful piece by the Shabbaton Choir. Many of you may not know that one of our wardens, David Gallon, is a member of the Shabbaton Choir. He has a beautiful voice. And as you know, part of the government guidelines at the moment is we can't sing in shul, so their tour has been cancelled this year. Even though there's no music, it's singing, but when you sing, you're opening your mouth wider and pellets can go further, so no singing in shul, which the wardens obviously have to, well, police is the wrong word, but we're doing everything right in shul. So the warden knows what true singing is like, because when you listen to this, you'll see just how amazing it is. Really, really nice. One of my favourite tunes as well for Ellie Cannon. So we're going to leave you with this. Wish you all au revoir. Have a lovely evening. Thank you for joining, and we shall see you next week.
Thanks. Shavua Tov. Take care.
We also sing, of course, on Shabbat, En Kelokeinu, there is none like our God. We give thanks to our God. The words from the Sabbath morning service, in fact the daily service, and also made famous by Talmon, the Israeli composer, and Chazan, Naftali Hirschtig of the Great Synagogue Choir.